So here we are, finding ourselves in a very peculiar situation. Based on the CDC guidelines, we're practicing social distancing. And as we are praying for those who are really going through right now, and as we're monitoring the situation to see what we can expect for the future, at the same time, we're finding ourselves to be home a lot more than usual, and in certain instances, with a lot more time on our hands. You see, just because our situation has changed doesn't necessarily mean we can't change our situation. You see, right now, there's 3 things that you could be doing in your life in this season that could change your life forever. And today I want to share that with you. So I hope you'll take a quick moment and join me as together we take a time out. My name is Joshua Fakir, and I want to welcome you back to Time Out. So in our time out together today, I just want to acknowledge that life is very different right now. We know we're practicing social distancing and we're home a lot and life has changed. And there's a lot of people who I'm speaking to who right now is having a hard time adjusting to this new way of life for the moment. A lot of people feel like they're cooped up, and it's a season of uncertainty, and they don't know what to expect, and so it's very different, and it's taking some time to get used to. Some of you're home and your kids are driving you up the wall. Others, you're trying to find time to do things that you didn't really have time to do otherwise, and you're running out of things to do, and everyone is just kind of waiting to see when is life going to be back to normal, so to speak. And so today I want to talk to you about seasons in life where things are not normal, but things we can do to help change our situation. You see, this is not the first time social distancing was practiced in the world. In 1665 there was the bubonic plague that attacked the UK, and it was to the point where they shut everything down, schools, just like what we're seeing today, and people were sent home. Universities were closed, and people found themselves to be home doing exactly what we're doing today. But there was an event that came out of that season. And it's an event that we actually are acknowledged even today in history. You see, there was a gentleman who attended the Cambridge University. And though the universities were closed due to the bubonic plague, this gentleman found himself going back home to his hometown. But he didn't stop in his persistence in wanting to learn and become a better person than he was yesterday. This gentleman would read and read, and it said that one day he was reading in his time alone, practicing what their guidelines and being safe. And in his time of reading, he witnessed an apple fall from the tree. Many of you probably know who I'm talking about right now, Sir Isaac Newton. And in certain instances, it was said that the apple fell from the tree and landed on his head. Other instances say that he witnessed it from afar. Either way, he witnessed an apple fall from the tree, and from that day, history was made. You see, one thing that piqued his curiosity was that the apple fell straight down. It didn't fall on one side or go on the other way. It fell straight down, and he decided he was going to look into it. And in his study, he started to study motion and energy and mass. And soon after that, he developed the law of gravity. His study of the law of gravity, Sir Isaac Newton, and this was in the 1660s. And today we still honor that law. You see, his situation changed too. Life was completely different as he knew it. But there was 3 things that I took from his story. And I think those 3 things we can apply ourselves. You see, there's 3 principles that we can be doing in this season that can change life forever, that can cause us to make an impact in life that can never be erased. And so for simplicity purposes and for remembrance purposes, these 3 principles are going to begin with the P, and I hope that you remember them. I guess it's before P's because principle also starts with a P. But nevertheless, the first principle that I learned from the story from Sir Isaac Newton is that you have to learn to be pliable. Pliable. You see, that word pliable, it means to be able to adapt, flexible. You have the ability to withstand change and move with change. The word pliable is often referred to as, and when it comes to wax, or when it comes to clay, or when it comes to leather, different materials that you can manipulate, but it doesn't necessarily change what that material is or its function in life. You see, there's being pliable like a plastic bottle, but then you also have something that's resistant to change, like a glass bottle. You can put both of them in a suitcase and take a journey, but only one of them can withstand a certain amount of pressure, depending on what happens with that suitcase in the trunk or in the airplane. You see, the plastic bottle, you can put it through certain changes in life or in the trip, and at the end of the day, when it comes out, it may be a little bent out of shape, but it still can function. Whereas in a glass bottle, the moment you push it past its threshold, it never makes it past change. Today we have to decide to be pliable, to be flexible. What can we do right now to continue down to what our goals were set at the beginning of the year? You see, Isaac Newton, his school was canceled, but he never stopped studying. He never stopped learning. He was pliable. He went from learning in the classroom to learning sitting under an apple tree. He decided that he wasn't going to sit under the tree and mope. He wasn't going to sit under the tree and allow himself to be frustrated. Although everything has changed, this wasn't part of the plan. He decided, how am I still going to be productive? How am I still going to push myself to be better in this season? What can I do right now with under these guidelines where I can continue to work on me? You see, one way you can be pliable in any season in life, regardless of the circumstances or the changes, is to make sure that you're not focused on the process, but you keep your eyes on the promise. You see, the process is going to go through things and push you through things, but as long as your mind and your eyes are set on the promise, you see, his eyes were set on becoming an educated man and making a change in life. And so though his situation and his environment changed, though his classroom changed from being inside to outside, he never stopped learning. There's things we could be doing right now in our spare time. What is your goal? What goals did you set at the beginning of the year? What things that you want to accomplish? I know that right now you're working under certain restrictions and you're trying to remain safe, and you're also trying to be conscious of what's going on in the world. But what can you be doing in your spare time? What is it that you can do to make sure that you're still progressing and moving forward? You know, there's people in times, you know, where the market is crashing. There's people who are doing whatever they can to position themselves to take advantage of opportunities. You know, in the midst of opposition, there's opportunities. I heard a great man of God say that. And so today I wanted to tell you, we have to learn to be pliable. The only way you're going to make it in life is to learn how to be able to be maneuvered and go through situations and changes, but keep your eyes on the promise. You see, never underestimate the process on the way to the promise, but never take your eyes off the promise on the way through the process. Because the moment you take your eyes off the promise, the process is going to change your life and ruin you. It'll cause you to give up because you're going through the situations that was never part of the plan. But if your eyes remain on the promise, you will learn to be pliable. You'll learn to go through changes and be like Sir Isaac Newton, who says, you know what? You can stop me from going to school, but you can't stop me from learning. I'm going to continue to read and I'm going to continue to do what I can in this season under these guidelines to make sure that when it's all said and done, I didn't skip a beat. So think about it. What is it that you want to do? What is your goals for this year? What I know that right now you're stuck in the confines of your home and you're trying, you know, and it's scary when you look out there. When you see what's going on, you know, you got to be in prayer for those people who are really going through. This is real. You know, and at the same time, as you're praying and being mindful of others and praying for them and praying about the situation, you know, when you're done praying, well, you never stop praying. But when you get back to the things that are in front of you and the goals, what can you be doing right now to make sure that you don't become stagnant? Pliable. That's the first principle. The second principle is persistence. You see, Sir Isaac Newton, he was persistent in his learning. He continued to do what he wanted to do. He continued reading. He started studying. He was researching. He's researching motion. He's researching weight. He's researching all these things to try to figure out, why did this apple fall from the tree and go straight down and not at an angle? His mind was curious, and who knows how much research he had to do. He had to be persistent. He had to be persistent. You know, I heard this saying once by a pastor by the name of Rick Warren. He says, faithfulness in little ways produces fruitfulness in many ways. You see, we want to make an impact in life. You see, you want to cause a splash, but notice that a little pebble can cause a motion in an entire lake, but it starts with a small splash. You thought it's a ripple effect. What things could you be doing right now that you can build on and be persistent to the point where you can make that huge impact in life? It starts with a little splash, but you have to be persistent. You see, you have to work hard at being consistent, or you can find yourself inconsistently working hard. I want to encourage you to be pliable, be flexible. I want to encourage you to adapt, learn to adapt in a situation. Don't say, you know what, this year is ruined. I'm so far behind on my goals. You know, was never part of the plan. You know, I'm stuck at home and I can't be out there doing what I want to do. And so I'm just gonna scratch this year. I'm just gonna plan for next year. No, there's things you could be doing right now. You never know. As long as you're persistent in doing something, as long as you're doing it doesn't, you don't measure it on a scale of how big it is or how small it is. Just do something every day to make sure you're a better person today than you were yesterday. So be pliable and be persistent. And then there's the third P. If you're pliable and persistent, it would lead to you being productive. To be productive, see, this is where the planning comes into play. Look, it's another P word. Process, pliable, persistence, productive, and planning. The letter P of the alphabet is the MVP today. But I want you to think about it. What can you be doing right now to make sure that your productivity never stops? How can you be pliable? How can you be adaptable? How can you be persistent to make sure you're still productive? You know, production, it takes place on any level. You can be productive doing something that may not be as much. You can get through a day. Listen to this. You see, in sports, there's timeouts like what we're taking right now. And in the NBA, there's a quick timeout where there's a 20-second timeout where you can kind of make a quick in-game adjustment to say, okay, let's keep doing this. Let's make sure we don't do that. And then you're back in it. But then there's also the extended timeout, a 60-second timeout. The 60-second timeout is when you see the coach come out and it's back to the drawing board. Either you're building on what was working, or you're scratching everything and say, we need to start from scratch. You see, right now in this season, social distancing, we're home right now. There's not a definite timeline as to when all this, there's speculations out there. There's disagreements out there as to when things are going to come back to where the way, or at least as much as it was before, as normal as it was before. But we don't know. This is like an extended timeout. It's time to go back to the drawing boards to figure out how can we be productive. It takes a lot of planning to be productive. You got to look at your plans that you had from the beginning of the year and say, okay, this right here I'm able to do right now. This I can't really do as much, so I'm going to focus on what I can do now. You see, the wisdom is understanding the things that you can change and differentiating them from the things that you can't change. You see, right now everything is important, but you have to be able to differentiate what's important from what's urgent. Right now you have to be able to be productive in this season. You can be productive in any season. You are a creative individual. You're smart. You can be adaptive. You can be pliable. You can be persistent. You can still work on you right now. and on your dreams. You're still monitoring what's going on. You're still praying and hoping for the best. And at the same time, don't find yourself just sitting there. Let me tell you the weirdest thing right now. Sometimes I'm home and I'm home more than usual, and I find myself home and I'm not doing as much, but I'm tired. You see, I see my parents are retired right now, and I can see why they encourage retired people to remain active. Because you can be sitting here and you can be home and you're tired. I mean, I feel the gyms are closed. I can be home doing push-ups and sit-ups and all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I'm tired. And I'm just sitting there, and it's a mindset. It's a mindset. You can't allow your situation to affect your determination. You got to let your determination change your situation. You got to do something right now to be pliable, persistent, and productive in this season. Get to the drawing boards. What can you do right now? What can you do right now to keep your dream alive, to keep your hope alive? What can you do right now to make sure you don't give up on you? You got to make sure you don't give up on you, and you got to make sure you fight for your dreams. You know what? Nothing in life comes easy. Nothing in life comes easy. There's going to be challenges and opposition that's from every side. But I'm going to say this one more time to you. Make sure you never underestimate the process on the way to the promise. But at the same time, never take your eyes off the promise while going through the process. Look at what you can do today in your life and every day until we see the situation resolved. We pray for the situation, we pray for the people, and then while you're at home, just make sure that you're pliable, make sure that you're persistent, and make sure you're productive. And I'll see you at our next time out. God bless you.